Hi, Brian here. It's been a while since we talked about the market analytics for the GTA real estate market, and hope everybody had a great summer break. So let's dive right into it on the August data to see what's going on in the GTA. And the most important thing is that in August, or throughout this summer, June, July, August, the market took a free fall on the average price. And the average price in the GTA real estate market really took a nosedive. Let's take a look at how much did the price drop, where did it drop, and how many years is our current price going back in the history. Now on the screen, you'll see that this is the overall GTA real estate market in terms of sales volume, average price, and then new listings and active listings, the four most important metrics. And first and foremost, you'll see that average price that it dropped from the peak this year around April, May at 1.12 and dropped down to 1.02, right? It dropped like from the data, you see that it kind of dropped 100,000 even just across a few months. And from last year, it dropped from 107 to 102, so it dropped about $50,000, and that represents about 5% of price difference between this year and last year. And even between August and July, there's a difference. July was 105, now we're 102. There's a $30,000 drop, right? And a lot of these, as you can see, it's interesting. The turning point of the average price for this year is actually also the turning point for sales to become more sales than last year. That's an interesting observation, I believe, because this year at the beginning of the year, right, you can see that even though you can see the sales are increasing every month, but it's just seasonality. Like March is supposed to have a higher number of sales than January. That's just every year it happens like that. But compared to last year, we've had a shortage of buyers willing to make a deal. And last year was already a very slow year, right? So we can see that this year it did not start great. But after June, it kind of took a turning point. The sales actually become more than last year. So that means there's more buyers at this point able to successfully purchase a property, and more sellers willing to let their property go and let their property get sold compared to the same time last year. And that's the same time when average price took a nosedive. So a lot of that means that more sellers after our election results, before the summer begins, they realize, okay, you know what, the real estate market, I have less hope about the future. I've kind of given up. I'm tired of waiting. Let's just get it sold, right? So there's more sellers willing to accept the market reality of a lower price and willing to get their property sold compared to earlier this year or same time last year. So this way, more buyers are able to actually negotiate a good deal and able to get the properties they want at the lower price that they're hoping to get. And in terms of new listings, we can see that 14,000 versus about 12,500 same time last year. So it's an increase, right? Increase about almost 10% year over year. So we can see that buyers are about the same, like 2-3% difference compared to last year, but new listings about 10%. So that means there's more sellers still this year compared to last year. Consistently, there's more sellers wanting to put their property up on the market for sale. But because we have been able to get more successful transactions in the last 3 months, you can see finally our active listing start to come down a bit. And that's important, right? Because the number one rule for any market improvement is that we gotta see the active listings start to go down. Doesn't matter if it's a lot of buyers or a lot less new sellers, something has to happen for the active listings to stop going up, right? So finally, we're seeing some improvement, and you can see this active listing drop is more a steeper line than the same time last year. So we know it's not just seasonality. There's something happening in the market that's actually helping the active listing inventory number a little bit more, right? So that's good. That's what we want to see. But the nosedive on the price is not great, and we can observe that in our actual transactions as well. On this second page, you can see that these are the four other metrics that kind of give us a sense of where the market is going. And just comparing this year to last year, on the sales to new listing ratio, months of inventory, both of these measures the relationship between buyers and sellers, right? And then sold to listing price ratio, and also days on market. So you can see that the sales to new listing ratio in the last few months are actually improving, right? So that's a good sign. That means there's actually less new sellers comparing to buyers able to make a deal. That ratio is actually improving. So that's good sign. And the months of inventory is still pretty flat, slightly going up. That means even though, yes, there's a bit less new sellers coming to the market compared to before, but there's still a lot of inventory waiting to be digested. So months of inventory, it's still not quite improving, like there's no obvious signs of improvement. It's still at a historical high of 5.3 months of inventory, which is historically high. We've never seen that number. Sold to listing price ratio is keep going down from like 1 to 0.98. So a number like 0.98 means that on average, the people who put out their listings up on the market, they don't end up selling over asking, right? They sell 2% below what they're asking for. And this ratio keeps going down means that, buyers are getting, bigger and bigger bargains or discounts from the listing price, which is expected in the buyer's market. And days on market is still going up. That means it does take longer and longer to sell the properties. But also it could mean that because in the past 2-3 months, we're able to digest, sell a lot of the properties that's been on the market for a long time, right? And that's actually calculated in the days on market. So it kind of digesting some of the old listings, like my listings. I actually sold quite a number of listings in July and August, and some of them actually has been listed since January or February. You can see the pictures even still had the winter snow pictures. But all of a sudden in July and August, there's a bit more buyers willing to see the property, make an offer, and the sellers are at the same time more willing to negotiate and more willing to meet the buyers somewhere in the middle, right? So that actually helped a lot in actually getting some of the older listings sold. So that's another reason we can see days on the market improving. Okay, now look at the same metrics. We want to know how many years did it actually go back in history, right? We see that in August, we're about 5% down year over year on the price compared to last year. But what about the year before, right? Let's take a look. So if we add in 2023, you can see that 2023 was actually higher than last year. So if you bought any property in the last 2 years, likely you're below water. In 2022, obviously we had a peak back then in February 22, and we're obviously below water, right, for 22. And if we look at 21, hey, interesting, we are still below water. We can see 21 is this green line, which is right here, and we're still here, right? So we're the lowest in the past 5 years. Obviously, we're the highest in active listings in the past 5 years, but our pricing right now in August is very obviously the lowest it's ever been in the last 5 years. And this drop, you can see that not every year between August and July, there's a big price difference. Like for example, 2022, 2021, the July and August, they're actually about the same price, right? So it's not just seasonality. There's actually a real price change in the market, especially in July and August. And if we go back to 2020, we can see that, hey, finally, right, in terms of average price, we are higher than 2020, okay? Average price in the GTA in 2020 was 950,000. Right now, 2025, we're at 1,020,000, right? So we're about 70,000 on average, still above 2020. So chances are, if you bought a property in 2020, on average, you should still be okay. In terms of new listings, we can see that we're the second highest in the last 6 years. 2020 obviously had a lot of new listings in August because of COVID. There's a lot of condos came to market. And in terms of sales volume, we are one of the lowest, right? Still like in the past 6 years at highest inventory. Okay, now we understand on average, we're still above 2020 pricing. What about different property types or different locations? Okay, so for simplicity's sake, let's remove 21, 22, 23, and 24. So on the screen, we only look at 25 and 2020. Okay, so we just compare this year and like the year of COVID. Let's take a look at how they compare. So you can see that on the screen. Right now, price is above 2020. Active listings were far above. New listings were below 2020, right? 2020 had a lot of new condo listings. And sales volume were way below where 2020 is. 2020, we had twice the amount of sales as we do now. We're over 10,000 versus 5.2K. So now if we look at the condo market, you can see that condo market had a lot closer distance, okay, between 2020 and the current pricing. It's only a mere like 12,000, 13,000 difference between within the condo market between now and 2020, okay? And everything else looks about similar to the total market. It's just the average price. We can see we're quite close to 2020 pricing. And if we add in 2019, you can see that we're pretty safe above 2019 still, okay, for a condo market. But is that true for all the locations? Let's take a look at downtown Toronto, okay? So on the screen, you see the 2019, 2020, and 2025 average price, right, for overall condo market. And if we look at downtown condo only, you can see here's a big surprising factor. Current downtown average price is $678,000. Comparing to 2019 at $715, 2020 and $746, we are below 2019 price for condos. Okay, overall we're still above, but for downtown we're below even 2019. What about 2018? If we're comparing 2025 to 2018, we're merely about the same. Okay, for downtown condos. So if you bought a condo in downtown, likely on average, current price is the same price as 7 years ago. Okay, that's a big time travel difference. So, and if we look at 2017, you'll see that we're still above 2017 and 2016. Okay, even in downtown. So we're safe. If you bought a condo in 2017, 2016, you're good. But 2018 downtown condo, chances are you are below water. Okay, on average. Different communities and different buildings are different, but this is on average just something to watch out for. And so you can see between downtown and elsewhere, the market does feel quite different. Now, what about detached market? Let's take a look at detached market and see how they stack up. Now, if we compare 2025 pricing to 2014 on the detached market, yes, we are below last year a lot, right? In 23, we're below 22, below 21, we're also below. So we're the same thing. As condos, we're the lowest in the past 5 years. Now 2020, as you can see, if we remove all the other years, current detached market, 2025 August, it's still higher than 2020, okay? 1.3 versus 1.17. So on average, you're good. If you bought a property, a detached home in 2020, you should be safe. And similarly, if you bought a property in 2019, 2018, you're good, right? Because current average pricing is higher than back then. 2017 is on average lower than right now, right? 2017 is, remember, before the foreign buyer tax, there was a peak. So on average right now, 1.31 is higher than the 1.21 peak in 2017. Unless you bought in certain areas like North York, for example. If you bought a house in North York, right now on average price is 1.82. In 2017, the average price was 2.3 million or 2.07 million in August, okay? So if you bought a house in North York in 2017, chances are you are still below water. So you can see the difference different areas makes, right? But if you bought a property in North York in 2018, then you should be good, okay? Because the property price dropped a lot in North York in between 2017 and 2018, it dropped. So if you bought in 2018, you should be safe. If you bought in 2017, you're below water. And then if you bought in 2019, you should be good because 2019 was probably kind of like the bottom of the market for detached market and you're still above water, right? So you can see timing makes quite a big difference and understand the market analytics is following these trends is quite important. And what about Markham, for example? Markham, if you bought in 2017, you can see that you're good. At the earlier peak of 2017, it's actually about the same price as 25, okay? But Markham price dropped a lot during the correction in 2017. In the second half of the year, by August, it dropped from 1.73 to 1.3. So right now in Markham, we're at 1.57, still above the August of that year. So you're still good. So unless you bought it at the peak of the market in 2017, okay? But if you bought at the peak in Markham, you're still underwater. You're comparing 1.57 to 1.72 or 73 even 8 years ago. Now, if you look at Oakville, it's quite a different story. In Oakville, you can see that 2017, even though yes, there is a correction from 1.63 to 1.3, the correction is small comparing to how much it actually appreciated later on. So right now, you can see that if you bought a house in Oakville, even in 2017, at the peak, you're still above water at on average 1.9 versus 1.63 back then in the peak, right? And obviously in Oakville, if you bought in 2018, 2019, 2020, you're still good. 2021, you're below water, right? Just like everybody else. If you bought a house in Oakville in 2021 and 22, right, you are below water, unfortunately. But you know your room for error is bigger comparing to North York or Markham. Okay, so just wanted to quickly share a bit of fun facts about this month's data. Stay tuned. We're going to share more interesting data analytics, and we're going to talk about the market after Wednesday's rate cut decision and see where the market is heading this fall and next winter. Okay, so stay tuned, subscribe. See you next time. Ciao.